Right. So in the previous sessions, we discussed about what is Angular, what is difference between Angular and AngularJS. So what are the issues with JavaScript, jQuery? These all things we learned, right? And the people who have raised your hands, I think you have doubts. I will take your doubts towards the end, right? Please lower your hands. Towards the end, I will take your doubts if you have any doubts, right? Fine. Right. So yeah, no problem. Even you attended today's session. This is your first session. I will share everything. Don't hurry, get hurried, right? If you are today in the first session, this is your first session. You don't need to worry about that. So we are in the demo sessions, right? And once we start a registered session, once we start the registered session and working with the registered sessions, I will give you a backup for the people who missed out the first sessions, right? Whatever the first sessions you missed out, right? Anyone who is in the first session, this is this is your first session, then no problem, continue. So we will have fine, no problem. You continue, and we will have a backup session. I will let you know about the backup session, right? So currently we just discussed some today's we are going to discuss about TypeScript. We are going to discuss about TypeScript. So already some basic points we discussed till now. Some important points we learned till now. Please now stop pinging your messages. I will get back to you, right? If you have any doubts, I will take the doubts towards the end. Okay, right. So screen is not visible. When I share the screen, it will be visible. I think you can see that now, right? Right. So fine. Let's start the concept, right? Fine. Actually, what we discussed in early sessions, I'm giving a list so that people who joined today in our session, you just keep those points. We will discuss in a backup session. I will tell you when the backup is going to be. In 1-2 days, we will have a backup session where we will discuss the topics that you missed out. Theoretically, we discussed some points. I will give you backup overview on that. Actually, we discussed about what are the basic requirements for building end-to-end web application. What are the basic requirements for building end-to-end web application? We discussed about what are the challenges in modern web development. What are the challenges in modern web development? And we learned about the solution. So that means how to overcome the issues. That means how to overcome the issues. So how to overcome the issues. That means the solution. And we discussed about what are the differences. What are the differences between JavaScript, jQuery, and AngularJS? So like options, we discussed about that. I also discussed about difference between Angular JS and Angular. Difference between Angular JS and Angular. And we also discussed about how Angular is different from React. These are the topics that already we discussed in our demo sessions. If you people, anyone is new and missed these topics, don't worry. I will conduct a backup session, and in the backup session, I will give you an overview of all these topics. Actually, the notes related to all these topics, is on GitHub. I will give you the GitHub link to the new people. Yeah. Right. And this is the GitHub link. I will post you this GitHub link to all of you. Right. So, yeah. This is the GitHub link. The previous sessions related notes and everyday notes, I will be keep on updating here. You can go through them. Right. And no need to worry that this is your first session, because in the introduction sessions, we discussed about these 6 points and I explained all these points. In backup session also, I will explain all these points. When the backup will be, we will conduct a backup after 2 days, right? Because during these 2 days, some more people may add in. Then once everyone is available, once our batch is seized with certain number of people, then I can take a backup. In the backup, I will give you all these points that you missed out. No need to worry, because today we are starting with a concept which everyone can easily understand without understanding these above points also, right? So even today is your first session, you will able to understand what is going on. And practically we haven't started anything that we are going to do today. So today we are going to discuss about a language. We are going to discuss about a language, TypeScript. Today we are going to discuss about the language TypeScript. So TypeScript technically is a language required for Angular. That is the reason we need to. Just now I said this is not first session. Just now I said to everybody that this is not the first session. So few demo sessions completed. If you missed those demo sessions, we will conduct a backup to those demo sessions, and the backup will be in 2-3 days. I will let you know about the backup timings after 2 days. Okay, right. Fine. Yes. Now, today we are going to learn about TypeScript. So, which is the language required for our Angular. Let me give you some points about TypeScript. Already I told you the drawbacks of JavaScript. Drawbacks of JavaScript and jQuery. JavaScript and jQuery. JavaScript is language, jQuery is library. So what are problems in that? We already discussed. But important, when you are learning Angular, Angular is using a new language called TypeScript. You need to first understand what actually TypeScript is. So let's see what is TypeScript. What are problems in TypeScript? We will see that. First, I will tell you about evolution. Actually, so to understand the evolution, first you need to understand. So problems in JavaScript. So what are the problems in JavaScript? We need to understand. Why we are going with a new language? What are the problems in JavaScript? We need to understand. Let's see what are the problems in JavaScript. Actually, one of the main problem with JavaScript is, the major issue with JavaScript is JavaScript is not a strongly typed language. JavaScript is not a strongly typed language. That is the first important problem you need to notice about JavaScript. For example, in JavaScript, I declared a variable x is equal to 10. Actually, now x is initialized with 10. Initialized with 10. That means it's a number type. It's a number. Now later, I define x is equal to John. That means I am defining some string type. Now this is also valid. This is valid. Even I define that x is equal to John, it is valid. That means JavaScript allows contradictory values. Contradictory values means the value type is not matching with what it is actually defined with. We asked for number, but they are storing a string into it. It will not show any objection. It will automatically take it. That is one of the biggest problem with JavaScript. So it is not a strongly typed language. So due to that, what happens is, in future, when you are using JavaScript with your Java, .NET and other languages in the backend, which are strongly typed, the JavaScript have a conflict with those languages because your languages are strongly typed, but JavaScript is not strongly typed. The data types that you are using, so they conflict with the Java, they have a problem with JavaScript data types. That means you said number, but it can handle any type of value. These are issues. That means explicitly developer have to handle handle types. Explicitly developer have to handle types and their restrictions. Explicitly developer have to handle types and their restrictions. That means when value is sent, we have to verify, is it value according to what type we are expecting or not. If it is according to the same type that we are expecting, then allow, otherwise block. Explicitly means manually, externally, you have to define everything. That means JavaScript doesn't have, because in your other languages, suppose int a, then you cannot store any another type of value. That means it is strictly typed. It is strongly typed. That means you can store only integer. You cannot store any another type of value into it. That is what actually the advantage with other languages. JavaScript have that problem. We have to explicitly handle the issue. We have to explicitly handle it. We have to write and verify whether the data type is exactly what we are expecting. Otherwise, block it. That is one important problem with JavaScript. Another important point is JavaScript. You have any doubts? Please lower your hands. I will take your doubts towards the end of the session and I will clarify your doubts. In between the class, don't raise your hands and doubts, please. So we will continue the session without any break. And at the end, I will spend time with you for clarifying your doubts. Hope everyone is clear, right? Yeah. So JavaScript have this problem. That is one of the problem. Another point is JavaScript supports object-oriented programming. JavaScript supports object-oriented programming. But not completely object-oriented programming language. That means JavaScript supports certain features. JavaScript supports certain features of OOP, but not completely an object-oriented programming. That means certain features of OOPs are lacking. What are lacking? For example, certain features of OOPs are lacking. Certain features of OOPs means contracts, templates, code security, contracts, templates, code security, and the dynamic polymorphism are not completely supported. What are contracts? What are templates? What is code security? What is dynamic polymorphism? You will learn if you don't know about them, right? If you don't know about them, no problem. You will learn what they are. Actually, OOP comprises of all these. And JavaScript supports object-oriented programming, but not an object-oriented programming language. Many people are misguided with this point. Many people say that, sir, in a website I have seen JavaScript OOP topics. That's good. You have seen JavaScript OOP topics. I already said that JavaScript supports OOPs related certain features, but not a complete OOP language. That means it is missing with certain features of object-oriented programming. It is not an object-oriented programming language. It supports object-oriented programming. That means certain features of object-oriented programming are missing. Then it is not having a perfect scenario for OOP object-oriented programming. Certain features are working. Code reusability, code extensibility, like features you can use, but not completely, because OOP supports so many things which are all not supported in JavaScript. JavaScript have class, JavaScript have properties, JavaScript have methods. But for example, I create a class in JavaScript. So this is a JavaScript class, and in that I am defining a member. So private name, that means we are defining some member. Private name is equal to John. Now important is private is an access modifier. So which is used to prevent the accessibility of that particular name member. And important is so private is not supported. That means private, public, protected, like options are not supported. They are not supported. That means access modifiers are not supported. If access modifiers are not supported, then how you can maintain code level security? That is one problem. That means it supports OOPs, okay, but not all the features of OOPs. That is one major problem with JavaScript. Then developers who are integrating and working with JavaScript with their server-side technologies, which are perfectly OOP supported, then they have a lot of complaints on JavaScript that it will not support this, it will not support that. Client side, server side we are managing, but client side also we want to manage in the same way. But JavaScript is not having that ability. That is the problem with JavaScript. Another important is JavaScript is not strictly typed by default. JavaScript is not strictly typed by default. You have to turn on strict mode explicitly. What is meant by strictly typed? Strongly typed means what type of memory you are allocating, what type of data you are trying to store in the memory. That is strongly typed. Strictly typed means, the point about strictly typed is nothing but a language is strictly typed means it is providing certain rules for a developer for writing the logic. That means a developer, when he is writing, he have to follow certain standards, certain rules. Without following the rules, if he starts writing, then the language should prevent such code and should tell the developer that this is not the right way. So JavaScript fails in that. Due to that, JavaScript we need to turn on strictly. So I will show you what is actually. Don't worry about practically what I am typing now. Don't worry about practically what I am typing. Don't worry about what the code I am writing. Just concentrate on the point here. Just concentrate on the point. You don't need to worry about what I am typing here. Just observe the concept. Suppose, see, I have JavaScript. Okay. In the JavaScript, I have a function, and I will call the function. And here I am simply saying x equal to 10, and I am printing it. So document.write. So and x is equal to plus x. Here, observe carefully. X is a variable which is never declared. Without declaring, I am trying to use the variable. Without declaring, I am trying to use the variable. Now when I am trying to use the variable without declaring, so you can see that it is still working fine. It is still working fine, right? So that means it is working fine. X equal to 10. That means X equal to 10 is directly assigned with a value without declaring a variable called X. Now, very important here, when you are doing so, according to the programming standards, actually, you need to declare a variable. Without declaring a variable, if you are trying to use it, it should not allow. But currently it is allowing. Right? That means the point is clearly that you are not following the standards of coding, and JavaScript is still allowing it. Generally, without declaring, we should not allow to use. But currently JavaScript is allowing. I will press F12, debugger will open. There is no error. You see in the console, we don't have any problem. But see, I don't want developers to do such bad coding. I want developers to follow coding standards and write correctly as per the coding standards, so that compiler will not face any problem in compiling it. Right? Then what we do is, we ask our developers to write JavaScript in strict mode. Generally, we have to write use strict. Use strict. If you have learned JavaScript, you know that use strict is to indicate that now the JavaScript is in strict mode. You cannot violate the rules of coding. You may ask, like, what are the rules for coding? There are so many coding rules. So that means strictly typed is nothing but follow coding rules. And important is, you can get coding rules from, you can visit PMD or Sonar for coding rules. You can visit PMD or Sonar for coding rules. I will give you here. You can see we have PMD. So this is PMD. This is a tool. So you can visit this PMD. Suppose you are learning Java, you are learning .NET, you are learning PHP, you are learning JavaScript, some languages. And important is, those languages have certain standards. They follow certain standardization, like CMM, Six Sigma, like ECMA standardizations. As per the standardization, how to write the code, those all coding rules are given here. You can go through them. Actually, it is a tool which you can integrate into your Eclipse, Edit Plus like softwares, so that while typing itself, it will alert you that this is not right. Actually, for example, I will tell you, what do you mean by coding rules? Suppose I written if condition and the statement true, and else statement false. I am not using a flower brace to start and end. But still it is valid. If I ask, is it valid? Everyone will say, yes sir, it is valid. That means it will execute the statement even if I don't use flower brace. I am not using flower brace for starting and ending the block. But important, you will learn that we don't need to use flower brace if I have to write one statement. But actually, once let's go to PMD. In PMD, there is a documentation. In the documentation, you can go to rule reference. Left side you can see rule reference. In the rule reference, Java rules, Maven rules, Java server rules, PLSQL rules, ECMS script rules. ECMS script rules are JavaScript rules. I will go to ECMA, best practices, coding style. I will go to best coding style. In the coding style, you can see if and else statements. And I click on if and else statements. And you can see that here it shows that if with flower brace, open and close is okay. Without brace, it is bad. See, it is saying bad. Who is saying it is bad? The people who standardize that language, they are saying bad. That means ECMA says that it is bad. But generally you might have learned that my faculty said that without flower brace also it will work. It will work. But as per the standards, it's not good for compiler. Because compiler can easily understand that flower brace is to start, another flower brace is to end. And if you are not using them, then it will take little time to understand what you are trying. That's not good for coding. Remember, this is the rule, and this is the standardization mentioned by the people who developed that language. Now you cannot say that they are not correct. What I learned is correct because they developed the language. You cannot say they are wrong. That will be foolish. Right? That means they who developed the language, who developed the standards for that language, those people will tell you the rules of writing, coding. That's the reason when you learn a language, always concentrate on knowing about the rules of the language, which you will get from these websites. PMD, Sonar, like code analyzing softwares are there, you can get them. I given you the URL, you can go through that. You can go through that. Now important is JavaScript problem is if developer is writing without following all these rules, still it is valid. It will allow. That's the reason you can see it is allowing. But I turned on the strict mode. Strict mode, use strict indicates that it is mandatory for a developer to follow all the coding rules. I will save this. Still he is not following the coding rules. Then when I refresh, it shows an error. It says that X is not defined. But previously it was not identifying that. It was ignoring that. It says that X is not defined. That means you haven't defined X. Okay, let's define X. That means where X. I declared X. When I declared X, now there is no problem. And remember, if I am not declaring X, it is showing error. But observe, it is showing error only when I turn on the strict mode. If I remove the strict mode, you can see it is not showing error. It will take. That means this is not good. You have to explicitly turn on the strict mode. And you need to explicitly handle it. That is general thing. Everybody who learnt about JavaScript, he knows that. What is strict mode and what is the problem with strict mode, means what, why we have to use strict mode. That means it is not strictly typed. You have to turn on the strict mode explicitly. That is one important problem with JavaScript. Another important point here is JavaScript handles schemaless data, structureless data, which will be a problem when you are dealing with schema based data. That means structure based data. For example, observe here one more point here. See, suppose I am creating here in products. It is an array. In the array, we have an object, name, TV, another price, that is money, some number. The next object, all should be same type. But next object, I said names and mobile and price and some string. Now you see, it is not showing any problem. It is valid. That means there is no rule for data. There is no structure for data. Structureless data. That means now both are valid. So for example, see now, I want to print document.write. Products is an array. I want to print zero.name. Zero.name. That means it will print first name. It will print the first name. You can see first name. I said one dot names. One dot names. It will print the second one. But how it can be so structureless? Because one is name, another one is names, and here price is number, here price is string. It is valid. It is valid in JavaScript. No, this type of data is not valid. I need structured data. I need to deal with structured data. Then lot of implementations are required in JavaScript. These are all the problems that we are facing with JavaScript. These are the major issues with JavaScript. That is the reason Google Angular team, Google Angular team decided to develop a new language in order to overcome the issues with JavaScript. Google Angular team decided to develop a new language in order to overcome the issues with JavaScript, and they started a script called TypeScript. They started a script called TypeScript to overcome the issues of JavaScript. Google don't want to use JavaScript directly in their Angular. They want some new, because already Angular JS is using JavaScript. Now they started a language called TypeScript. Their intention is to overcome all the issues of JavaScript. Whatever problems are there with JavaScript, to overcome those issues. They started it actually, TypeScript. They started TypeScript. But what happened is, they started TypeScript, and they started this in the year 2013. So they started TypeScript in 2013. They started this TypeScript in 2013. But what happened is Microsoft already developed a similar script for their .NET languages. Microsoft already developed a similar script for their .NET languages called TypeScript. They already developed a similar script for their .NET languages called TypeScript. So actually, TypeScript designed by Anders Hazelberg, developed by Anders Hazelberg, designed by Anders Hazelberg, who developed a language called C# for Microsoft. TypeScript designed by Anders Hazelberg, who developed a language called C# for Microsoft. So TypeScript is there before the Google's TypeScript. Internally, Microsoft is using it. Internally, Microsoft is using to overcome the issues of JavaScript. They are already working on that. They are already using it. Now suddenly they saw that Google is trying a script similar to that. That's the reason Microsoft team asked Google that why you are again trying this. Why can't you take a look about this? We already have it. You are trying the same. Then Google and Microsoft team had verified the TypeScript together and decided that, okay, we will use this for our Angular. They are satisfied. Why? Because whatever they are looking for in the Edge script is already there in TypeScript. Only the point is they want Microsoft to make it open source so that everybody can use it, customize it according to their requirements. Then Microsoft agreed for that and they made TypeScript as an open source. So TypeScript is an open source, completely open source cross-platform language. Completely open source cross-platform language is a complete open source cross-platform language developed by Microsoft and which is being used by Google in its Angular. So TypeScript belongs to Microsoft and Angular belongs to Google. And Angular actually, it took so much time for integrating TypeScript into Angular. In the early days when Angular came, people learned Angular with JavaScript because TypeScript was not ready. TypeScript was not given by Microsoft yet. And people started learning Angular with JavaScript. But within a short period, Microsoft made it as open source and released it. Then immediately everyone shifted to this TypeScript. Remember one point. So TypeScript is an open source and cross-platform language developed by Microsoft and it is being used by Angular, and it is being used by Angular and other technologies related to web. So TypeScript is completely an open source cross-platform language developed by Microsoft. So, and it is being used by Angular and other technologies related to web. Now, important is TypeScript is strictly superset of JavaScript. Strictly superset of JavaScript. What do you mean by strictly superset of JavaScript? It means that by default it is in strict mode of JavaScript. That means by default TypeScript is in strict mode by default. That means it will not allow any coding rule violations. And very important is TypeScript is strongly typed. Actually, in programming terminology, I will tell you, we call this as duck typing. What is duck typing? I will tell you in the next level. In technical architectural point, we say duck typing. Duck typing is a mechanism actually. TypeScript is strongly typed. And very important, TypeScript supports. You can simply say that TypeScript is an object-oriented programming. It supports all features of OOPS. It is an object-oriented programming language, and it supports all features of OOPS. And very important is TypeScript transcompiles everything into JavaScript. That means it translates everything into JavaScript. That means you should know that TypeScript is not understandable to browser. Browser can understand only JavaScript. Then for whom TypeScript is designed? TypeScript is designed for developers. So browser cannot understand TypeScript. So developers are utilizing the features of TypeScript. They are leveraging the benefits of TypeScript and developing application. Finally, it has to translate everything into JavaScript, which is the only script understandable to browser. That means don't think that TypeScript is directly understandable to browser. No, TypeScript is completely for developer. That means actually TypeScript speeds up your development experience by catching errors and providing fixes before you even run your code. Before you even run your code. That speeds up the development process. That means important. TypeScript runs everywhere. You can simply say TypeScript runs on any browser, any operating system, and anywhere. So JavaScript runs. So it is entirely open source. Everywhere where JavaScript runs, TypeScript can run. In any browser, any operating system. Only the point is directly TypeScript is not understandable to browser. It is translated into JavaScript. Then for whom TypeScript is for developers to reduce all the issues that developers are facing in client-side scripting, to overcome all the issues that developers are facing in client-side scripting. That is what important. That's the reason majority of web technologies, instead of going with JavaScript directly, they will use TypeScript, which can transcompile everything into JavaScript. That is what ability of TypeScript. Not only that, TypeScript supports low-level features. TypeScript supports low-level features. That means so that it can directly interact with hardware services. So it can operate on very low memory devices. So it supports very low level features so that it can directly interact with hardware services. It can operate on low memory device. Remember, so a high level language, if it is not supporting low level features, then it cannot directly interact with hardware services. So it needs another language which will translate it and make it understandable to the hardware services. But one of the speciality of TypeScript, you should know that TypeScript is completely built by using TypeScript only. That's great. That means TypeScript is a language which is completely built with the same TypeScript language. What does this mean? Generally, all your high-level languages are not directly understandable to device hardware services. They are not directly understandable to hardware services. They need low-level. They'll need translators, compile. Here also translate compilers. They need low-level language to interact with hardware services. But that's the reason high-level languages are built with other languages. For example, Java, .NET and other languages, they are not directly understandable to hardware. They use so low-level languages in the background, which translate those languages into understandable format of the hardware devices and makes them interact with them. But TypeScript advantage is TypeScript is completely built with TypeScript so that it can easily interact with hardware services. That is what the advantage of TypeScript. And very important is TypeScript can use all JavaScript library. TypeScript can use all JavaScript library. That means whatever there in JavaScript, it can be used by TypeScript. So if you know JavaScript, then whatever you know in JavaScript, you can utilize in TypeScript. So you will not feel any difficulty in that. However, TypeScript has several new features which you will understand once you start working with it. But you should know that when compared to JavaScript, TypeScript supports all these features. That's the reason TypeScript is not for browsers. TypeScript is for developers. Right? So developers use TypeScript, which will translate into JavaScript. JavaScript will be used by your application, right? This is what you need to understand. I hope everyone is clear with this. Now you need to understand how the TypeScript works. What is the TypeScript architecture? TypeScript architecture. How TypeScript works? What is the TypeScript architecture and infrastructure? How to install TypeScript? How do we run TypeScript? How do we work with TypeScript? Now practically we have to start with this TypeScript. Without TypeScript, you cannot touch Angular. So for Angular, this is a mandatory language. That's the reason you need to have a good idea of this TypeScript. And no need of any JavaScript knowledge. If you don't have any JavaScript knowledge, no problem. You can continue. Why? Because here we will learn this language from the scratch level. Then it will help you to understand even you don't have knowledge of JavaScript. Okay. But later you learn JavaScript, then it will be good. Anyhow, so this we will start with TypeScript. How the TypeScript works, what are more features about TypeScript, we will discuss step by step. Architecture and practically how we can install and use. That we will see tomorrow. Hope you are clear with all these topics, and from tomorrow we will start practically working with the TypeScript, right? Hope you are clear with all these options. And all our classroom notes I am uploading into this location.